right. Mercedes, thank you for joining me on InnSync.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
I appreciate you separating a few minutes here on Sunday to join me. Thank you.
I always try. I always try to show up for people.
We're going to talk a little bit about dropping receipts on social selling. I've got Mercedes Montijo. She is the director of sales and events at Wood Group. Welcome to the show.
In Pacific Beach, San Diego.
Fantastic. Many sellers hesitate to put the time and effort into what we love so much about social selling. We're here to overcome some of those barriers and challenges by helping them understand the values. I'm starting this new little series called Dropping Receipts, underscoring the importance of results. So, Mercedes, why did you begin this journey 100 days ago?
So 100 days prior to that, I got voted on the board for one of the local boards. And I had been selling that venue or the venues for 4 years at that time. And nobody knew who I was when I walked in the door. And I was like, that is a huge problem. Because this was a local board in our local area and nobody knew who I was. And I've been selling venues and doing over $1 million in venue sales for the last couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And nobody knew my name. Nobody knew who I was. And they had a false assumption about me based on things that we had happened with COVID. And they were like, oh, you work for those people, they opened during COVID or something like that. And I was like, that's interesting. And so that's why I actually started is I didn't want there to be a perception about me that was false or fabricated. And I wanted it to be a positive perception and not something that can be betrayed as negative. And so I just started one day. And of course I got a little fatigued and burned out. And I posted with ChatGPT and it didn't succeed. But why I stayed is because I saw success. And
Mm,
in 100 days to see success is insane,
big
but
time.
I'm consistent, persistent, and different. And I'm always pushing myself to do more. And I'm always encouraging others. Like something that you could do for free today is to like somebody's post. But a lot of people won't do it. They'll keep scrolling. They'll acknowledge your post, they'll read your post, but they won't like it. And
So it's just been 100 days, which is incredible. I've seen you connecting and doing exactly what we try to underscore and support with some of our sellers. And I can understand you are seeing a lot of tangible results. So, can you share some of those receipts with us, by the way? The most important things, results, right?
I brought my CVS receipt. But
Beautiful.
you ready for this?
Yes.
CVS's extra care program was gone. So you know how usually their seats like it's a short one. Thank you.
Hey, we're saving the trees, which is right behind you.
Right. I was like, oh, your extra care program's dead. Dang it.
Yeah, they used to have like coupons. So,
Yeah. No, they still do. It was just down that day.
oh, aha.
But receipts wise via LinkedIn, I'm on this call today. I was voted to be on the board for HSMAI. Just like personal growth wise, I've seen a lot. I've also seen a lot on the business side, of course. So I booked a $35,000 event for one of our venues via LinkedIn by somebody seeing my post and relating to it. And it was a post in which a event had completely gone catastrophe and I remedied it as best as I could and actually stayed in touch with the client afterwards. So just being real and essentially saying, I'm not perfect, but I will try to remedy it as much as I can. And that's what you can trust me for is that I will do as many MacGyver moves as I need to do to make something perfect from a client perspective. I've also just been introduced to so many new people that are huge in leadership that has opened up a lot of doors. And I've even heard from the grapevine. I went to an event actually when I was at the All Industry Cruise. Somebody stopped me and they went, "Oh, you're Mercedes." And I went, "Yeah, yeah." And she's, "Oh my gosh, my sales manager," and I can't remember what hotel, it's like blank right now, but she's my sales manager brought up one of your posts in our meetings. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So it definitely does get you a lot more recognition and essentially builds more trust with people. And not just in an industry like where you're hoping that everything is a sale, of course, but building trust helps with referrals. So I've had multiple people now refer me to other people because they're not essentially my buyer at the moment, but they know somebody that is my buyer. And at the end of the day, the sale is a sale. So
Beautiful. You perfectly and simply broke that all down. And what you just described is exactly what a lot of hotel sellers they equate to an in-person event, right?
mhm.
The trust factor, the networking factor. They all agree that's all important. That's why they all flood to in-person events. All of them.
Yeah.
But why? I don't understand why there's such a disconnect on why they can't take that exact same line of thinking, what you just described, and translate it into to online. Because
Well, and how
honestly,
many in-person events does that equate to build the trust? How many in-person events do you have to hopefully see me at to get the same amount of trust that I'm getting online?
how come people don't they can't seem to wrap their head around this? It's essentially the same thing. Networking in person is the same thing online, and for whatever reason, people are seeing a divide there. Do you know why that is?
I think you nailed the nail on the head the other day when you were like, some people just believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is me just saying this. We've done this for our reservation system. So we had a reservation system that wasn't essentially broke. The program worked. It did what it needed to do. We were able to have people book reservations. We were able to book seat them, but it was broke in a sense of it was not calling to the customer we needed to attract. It was calling to the customer that was on a different had a different expectation than we could meet because we're in Pacific Beach. Essentially, we are a college bar, but we're high-end college bars. But if you're looking for more in steakhouse and you come to one of our bars, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Right.
And so that old reservation system did that. It made us look like Morton Steakhouse, and we weren't that. And so we saw a lot of, even though the system wasn't broke, we saw a lot of bad reviews. We saw a lot of not really booking or no shows. And I changed that reservation system, something that wasn't broke, changed it, and we doubled our reservations in 1 year.
Wow.
And we're doubling again this year. So we've essentially 100 times what we used to see something from something that wasn't broke. It worked just fine. The car was still running. It just wasn't running efficiently and effectively for our guests.
And you probably didn't know what you didn't know, right? Because it was fine.
Nobody else knew it. I look at room for revenue.
Yeah,
So I'm
right?
always looking at innovative and strategic ways to better serve the guest. That's my whole theory on that. And so that was the theory behind changing the reservation system. And a lot of people were like, I don't really want to have to retrain everybody. I don't want to have to do all these other things. And I was like, no, we're doing it because I think it's going to really make a difference. And it did.
Awesome. I'm gonna throw something bold out here. I personally think I have much more success and much more efficient by networking now on LinkedIn than I do at an in-person event. Would you agree with that?
100%.
And if our hotel sailors are love meeting new people, they love to go to events specifically just to meet new people. When they
Hmm.
keep doing it over their coffee every morning, right?
Yeah.
Doing consistently, but that's where I still see the disconnect, and I'm not exactly sure why there is this barrier. There's a lot of people that are just lurking in the shadows. They know everybody's on LinkedIn. All the meeting planners on LinkedIn. I talk about meetings. Mike from Meetings Made Easy. His
I
entire
like my
team's on LinkedIn.
time. It's so great.
He's awesome, right? He's being just like you had mentioned, authentic, raw. He's talking about things that matter to his prospects.
Yeah.
He's basically just educating his prospects. He's making himself trustworthy and is doing it consistently. It's not really that difficult.
And this is the thing is this is where I find it very strange is if you were to ask somebody from a consumer side, how do you find your next venue? You know what they're going to say? They're not going to say they're going to walk up to the venue and talk to the sales manager. They're going to go online and look at your reputation.
Exactly.
And if that reputation is backed by the sales manager who speaks about the venue and also builds a reputation for themselves, that makes your trust and authority so much bigger than anybody else that's currently doing it.
Next week, I've got another series coming out by wearing your prospect shoes. And I'm going to put my same illustration in is that most hotel sellers that are selling a venue are just essentially leading with their empty meeting space.
Yeah.
It all looks the same.
Yeah.
So if you're not including yourself in the process, which you are. You're differentiating yourself. I haven't been a Flamingo Deck and some of the others that you represent. Admittedly, I don't know why. I've spent half of my life in PB, not recently, my younger days. But tell me a little bit more about the value of Mercedes brings to, say, the Flamingo Deck. When you pair yourself with your venue, because your venue's nice, right? But so there's a lot of other nice venues in San Diego. I'm assuming,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
why are you the differentiator? And how do you see yourself as the prize and not just your nice venue?
I have so much knowledge to give just about the industry in general, right? And so a large amount of our business is referrals.
Hmm.
Like I don't have to go and prospect because people recommend me all the time. And it's not even when I'm in the room. It's when I'm not in the room when people are recommending me. And it's based on how they know who I am, but they also know that my venues, maybe they'll take a look at our pictures online. They'll take a look at what we have going on our Wood Group's event website, and they'll go, her venues are also really nice.
Uh,
So it's like they already know Mercedes will take care of you.
yes.
Her venues are nice.
Again, I'm sure Wood Group's fantastic. But if you were at another venue, equally as nice, had equally the amenities and all the things go along with it, I'm assuming it's you that they're seeking out. Beautiful.
100%. And
Yeah.
I actually want to touch on this. So back in my bartending days, this is going to throw it way back. I actually took over a bar that was unsuccessful and was essentially came out of failure and rebranded and then failed in itself. And they were making like $300 a day in the bar
Wow.
sales. I took that bar and took my already built client base that I had in that community and took that bar from a $300 sales a day to $4,000 sales in my shift just
Wow.
by putting online that I was working, texting all my regulars saying, "Hey, I'm working, come in for drinks tonight." And it wasn't about giving anything away. It was simply saying, "I'm going to be here and I know you love to hang out with me."
That's beautiful.
So we've seen this, like it's been, if hotels, of course, are a little slow to the game, but restaurants have been playing this game for a long, and now we're almost not necessarily forcing people, but we're pulling their hands. And I think the next step will be to get into an agreement with our staff of, hey, we want X amount of posts a week and we'll sponsor those posts, but we want to see that engagement.
And you're absolutely right. And maybe that would be another great series is what the restaurant industry can teach hotel sales. Because you blew me away with that one stat. You said oftentimes high-end bars in LA, they won't even consider you unless you have influence,
Yeah.
which makes sense, right?
It's Hollywood. They want the stars. They don't want somebody that nobody knows. If nobody knows you, then nobody knows where you work.
So shouldn't that be the same for somebody that's selling a venue space on the hotel side? Why wouldn't your ownership want you to be out front and center, personally branding yourself as the thought leader? So naturally prospects come to you and it just so happens they're selling your space for you. But no, we see no leadership. Very few in our industry are leading with that. They're playing defense. They don't want our sellers out because they feel that their competitors might poach them, which is a really weird dynamic from what you just described in the restaurant industry.
And I won't lie, your competitors are gonna poach them.
And
But how are
right,
you competitively keeping them?
exactly.
You
Yes.
don't have to worry about keeping people if you actually have the magic recipe to keep them. What?
Yeah. Which is a whole other problem in itself, right? If you have to worry about your employees leaving because they're out there making you more money,
Yeah,
it's
they can also
not
get poached at any event.
totally. Wow, yeah, no, that was an amazing aha moment that I wanted
I
to
think I
bring
think
up.
it is though, is that when you hire a social media strategist and they give you an outline of
Yep,
what you could post for the month and all these like ideas, I think what they really need to start doing is if they focus that onto personal branding and gave their employees an outline. And then, like I said, essentially told them, like, hey, we'd love to see 4 posts out of you and we'll give you this amount of financial compensation or X, because you pay them for conventions. You pay them to go to like bigger
you're
events
right.
and sell.
Again, there's that divide between offline and online. It is what you just described is exactly the same case. You're sending your team, you're spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on to go at an MPI event or whatever the case may be, to
Yeah.
be the ambassador of your property, but then you don't have the same at that same
Daily
mindset
occurrence.
which you could be way more efficient, save more money, connect with more people, influence more people, but there's still this huge divide. In fact, this is a great segue into if you're not gonna get that from your leaders and you need
Mhm.
to realize it's in your best interest as a hotel seller to do it yourself, because I'm calling it sales insurance these days. If you've got a personal brand and you are the prize and you God forbid something happens, you get laid off, the hotel go I whatever the case may be.
Which is happening right now.
Exactly. How are you gonna different they're gonna go look at your LinkedIn profile. Of course
Yeah,
they are.
yeah.
In fact, Don Barnett even said, uh, I don't necessarily look at their SSI, social selling index score,
Mhm.
but I absolutely go to their LinkedIn. I find out how much they're contributing, if they're posting, what their thought leadership looks like. So for a hotel seller out there that is, you just shared a lot of success, doesn't know where to start, could you share maybe just a few tips to get them off the fence and really value themselves?
I think the first thing you have to do is change your mindset when you're thinking about posting to your clients and look at it from a client's perspective. And it's so important. And it's actually really hard. And some days I'm not in the mindset, and some days I'm really in the mindset. But if you are in that mindset, you just have to get your phone out and record. Because if you lose that thought, then you're not going to get it back. But you really just have to start. And at first, nobody's going to be watching. Nobody was watching my post when I first started. Maybe it was the chat GPT probably. But even with like my first organic post, nobody watched. And I look at back at those posts and it's so cringe for me. And but some of that, some people found so much value in that they followed me through it. And so it's seeing that like I'm adding value to my guest or somebody that could potentially recommend a guest to me. But not just that. You think about Kobe Bryant, Oprah Winfrey, Gary Vee, all of those people worked for somebody. But you know what they did different? They built a personal brand to make themselves just as valuable as the brand that they sold. So now they're more valuable and they've built their own personal brands to a point where they don't need a brand. But it just shows that building a personal brand is more than just what we're doing. This is low on the personal branding. We're like, I wish I was, I wish I was the Gary Vee. I'm not yet. But with consistency and persistency, I may be. And it's all in your control, right? Because a brand is just that, it's its own brand.
Right?
But you are also just you.
Absolutely. You brought up a really good point about this is probably a little bit before your time, but a lot of sellers were hired on the Rolodex. How full the
Oh,
Rolodex do you remember that term?
yeah. Yeah.
So having a big Rolodex, wouldn't that be the same thing as having influence or followers or connections on LinkedIn? How are they not the same?
They are the same though. I actually, that's so funny you say that because I always tell people, like, they're like, who do I need to introduce you to? And I always tell people, I don't care who you introduce me to. I just want you to think that it's a good fit for me. If you meet somebody and you're like, this is a great Mercedes and you are going to get together so well, introduce me. And they're like, even if it's in your same like business arena. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, because having a conversation with somebody in my business arena is actually beneficial to me and to them because we can have conversations about what we're seeing. Like, I
Absolutely.
actually, when we were at the last event, all the bus charter people were together chatting.
What?
And people probably think we're weird because we're all talking to each other. And I'm like, no, that's normal. That's actually really good because you guys can figure out how you need to position each other to better serve your guests.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know this whole notion of we gotta keep our cards close to our chest. We've got trade secrets. Surprise. This is one of the reasons why you and I would talk about the whole pricing thing. There are no secrets anymore. I can find out. I can fire up Chat GPT and I can ask it a very detailed question. It'll give me a ballpark. It'll give me some answer. It may or may not be right. But
Uh-huh.
this whole notion of, yeah, don't talk to your competitors or, oh, that is absolutely crazy. I learned so much from other agency owners and we welcome, I have found so much value in people that have shared things at other agencies and say, hey, Corey, we've done that before. It turned out to be a nightmare for us. I have avoided so many catastrophes
Yeah.
by luckily people being very transparent with me and say, hey, we thought that was a great idea and we ran down that road, but it was a complete flopped. No, us to have that open and transparent dialogue, it's
And
something.
that's the thing. And you've probably seen it talking to other agencies. I guarantee you there's been people that, because not every agency is the same.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
every agency sells the same product, right? But you
Right?
guys are all agencies.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you, without you knowing, there has been agencies that recommend you or recommend you to their client that they potentially could have had, but that's not their ballpark.
Absolutely.
So
Agree.
I've had people that have venues. And because I stay connected with them on LinkedIn, because I stay connected with them in general, they have recommended me time and time again because they have somebody looking for a beach property and they don't have that.
There you go.
And it's as simple as saying, "Hey, we don't have this, but I really want to." It's about pleasing the guests. They're not doing it because
Absolutely.
it makes me more money. They're doing it because they don't want to say, "Hey, sorry, good luck." And I do it all the time too. I actually send people like we don't take a lot of underage events, and because it's very finicky on the weekends. And I have sent people to other venues because I don't do it, and I don't want a guest to have that reflect poorly on me. And so what I'll do is I'll say, "Hey, we don't do that, but here's this other great venue," and I'll connect them with that person and hope that leads somewhere. And even if it doesn't lead somewhere, what I've seen is that person that I led somewhere else comes back to me for their
Well,
next event.
you just underscored another important thing about short-sightedness versus the long and
The
putting your
long game.
and putting the best interest of your customer first, always. And I think with transactional hotel sales, it's here comes the RFP. We put the RFP on the desk, we reply to it, next. And it's either there's a piece of business in front of me, or I can't look left or right because I'm so busy on the treadmill of just churning out business. They don't look at what you just described. Oh my God,
Mm,
Mercedes could have had our business, but she felt you beat obviously, if they didn't have a beachfront or whatever the case may be, but it might even be the fact where in your gut, you're like, "This isn't the right fit for us. It's probably gonna go sideways.
yeah.
I could get the sale, but it's gonna
Yeah.
be problems." And in the past, I've done that. I've taken on a couple clients and I'm like, "This is just not right, Corey. Don't do it." But I had to feed those, twin daughters of mine and get them off of Top Ramen every so often.
You-
And it's more times than not, it's come back to bite me. And so Susan and I are very transparent now. If it doesn't align with our values, or I know we can totally help them. In fact, we just wrote our 15 items for our bill of engagement, and it tells you all the things that we believe in. And we walk through our partners through that. If you don't align with all of these
yeah.
and you question it, it's probably not going to be the right fit. And ultimately, it's not going to be success.
And I think we've all met that salesperson that does that.
Totally.
But most of the time, it's a car salesman, and nobody likes dealing with car salesmen.
And
Don't be that person.
how many, how many referrals do you think that car salesman's getting?
None. I guarantee it because
And when
he's screwing people over day by day by day.
and they think
But
that
how many referrals are these car salesmen getting that are on Instagram, TikTok, like insane?
totally.
Those guys are their pipeline's too full. They're like, "Hey, is there any car salesman in San Diego that can help me?" And I see it time and time again.
Totally.
Realtors, car salesmen, even brokers. Everybody's doing it right now. It's insane. But it's the way of the market and nobody can understand it. But it's the way.
And here's the thing also, is getting back to the short versus long form view of business. When the economy's rocking, everybody's busy, everybody's got deals coming in, that's one thing. It's when things slow down and
Yep,
suddenly it's that person that has invested the time and effort to build that
yep.
personal brand of trust. So when those few and far between opportunities come around, it's Mercedes. Oh, yes, of course. If you want to have a high school reunion around the beach area of San Diego, I know exactly who I'm going to call. And naturally, that is where people are going to gravitate to.
And not just that, it's when the economy's great, everybody's busy. And if you see short sighted, you're an a hole.
Right.
And you're like, but what you don't realize is when that economy gets rocky, your pipeline gets slower.
Big
So
time.
who you didn't pay attention to when you were busy is now going to be really hard to gain back when you're not. And even though it's slowing, the events don't stop.
Right.
People still want to gather. People still want to have meetings. They just are going to maybe limit their meetings to one a year, but they will still have a meeting somewhere that year.
Funny thing you'd mention that because you posted, was it today or yesterday about price sensitivity? You're beginning to see that, right?
Yeah. He was leading the edge on that. And I think hotels need to take some notes. And I'm taking notes currently.
Uh-huh.
Wedgwood weddings.
Wedgwood weddings. That's
Yep.
okay.
So Wedgwood has a lot of venues they third party out to.
Uh-huh.
And I really admire their business model and they're really smart about it. They have found a way to be very transparent about what they're doing on the opposite end of what we all do. Very transparent. You can see the price of each venue on their website and how much it's
Nice.
going to cost you during peak, non-peak, and specific hours and days. And then on top of that, they are favored by the clients because people know what they're signing up for. And I guarantee you, there's some clients that never inquire because it's just out of their price range. And so you don't waste your time. It's such a waste of time to get an
Totally.
RFP
Yep.
and then you give them their quote and they never respond. It's a waste
Exactly.
of time.
Totally.
I sat there
Absolutely.
and thought about it for 10 minutes and then had to write the quote and had to get everybody to approve it and do all these things and work out AV and all this stuff. And then they just ghost me. Like I could have gotten rid of that whole ghosting situation.
Oh, no, but if we force, our prospects to talk to Mercedes, I'm sure you can talk around the budget, right? If mom and dad say, "Hey, Mercedes, you've got 10 grand for your wedding," and they've got visions of having a beach wedding in Pacific Beach,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming Wood Group doesn't have a financing plan, there's only so much. If there's a $10,000 budget and they want a $50,000 wedding, there's a huge gap there. It's a waste of time. It is a total waste of time. Ironically, you'd mentioned that because Marcus Sheridan from They Ask You Answer just rolled out a new estimating calculator. Any business do this for them. In fact, I'll share the link in our
Yeah.
post.
Share the link with me.
Just came out. And I don't know if Connor was my last interview in InnSync. I don't know. Have you seen any of the They Ask You Answer videos? I'm going to share. Okay. They're incredible. It's all about this whole notion of DIY sales process. People want to do most of it themselves before they reach out to you, Mercedes. Give them all the information that they need.
Do you think that it's a fear thing though, Cory? Do you think that sales managers fear for their job once it becomes essentially automated?
There's definitely a fear of the unknown. Yes, but it's hurting them. And if they are driving prospects away because of fear of the unknown, they can't stop what's happening. 80 Marcus's and Connor's stat that they came up with, 70 to 80% of the sales process is all self-guided before they reach out to sales. So if your website is devoid of FAQs, videos, menus, site plans, the process of how it works. If I want to DIY my wedding, I don't know how to do that. I can't afford a wedding planner, but I'm looking for resources. I want checklists. I want to be able to do it myself. I want pricing. And then when I reach out to you, Mercedes, I'm like, I'm ready to do this. If you're a sales manager, you don't recognize that's what I want, that's what you want, that's what he wants or they want. If you want that, why would you not? Your prospects don't want that. That's insane.
That's what I find it so funny that everybody's so afraid that it's going to replace them because what they don't realize is I think it gets you closer to yes and stops wasting your time in between.
Absolutely.
Right? And imagine if you're closer to yes, how many more deals you can close.
That's true. Now, however, I will push back on this for the order taking salesperson that's sitting behind the desk waiting for the RFPs to come on. Between you and I, you might be replaced. You can already go on Groups 360. I can book a venue right now myself. I don't have to talk to sales. But if I
And
see
it's
a
the not
video,
want to talk to sales. Some people
ex-
don't want to talk to sales,
that's
which is
exactly
getting really interesting.
right. So if I see a video from Mercedes
Yeah.
about how I can crush my team building on the beach or
Yeah.
a smoothie showdown competition that I can bring my retreat in,
Yeah.
and I'm going, oh my gosh, Mercedes talking about these things. My CEO is asking about team building events. I need to talk to her.
Yeah.
But if it's just a book of empty meeting space, I would be very worried. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
and can I add to this? What people don't get about LinkedIn is posting on LinkedIn is for exposure. Reaching out is for prospecting.
Yes.
Your
Exactly.
LinkedIn post will give you exposure. It will give you trust and authority. Reaching out will put the cherry on top. You have to do both. You cannot do just one.
Absolutely. And
Which I
ironically,
actually just reached out to somebody and I sent them a voice message. Oh, you love the voice messages. A lot of people don't know about the voice
I
messages,
know.
but that is such a great touch to, and instantly got a meeting booked.
See, it's
And I think something new.
I dropped that as the LinkedIn audio message in the DMs is the new handwritten personalization note. The same thing, right?
It's the 2024 personalized note. Yep. Because it
So
makes it so you're not AI. You're not sending me an AI message. You're sending
exactly.
me Mercedes's voice. And when I talk to you later in that week, next week, I'm going to feel like I know you.
It you just took the word right out of my mouth because of the LinkedIn thing. When you said you have to do both, if your post on LinkedIn is about awareness and being top of mind, but then you're reaching out. When you reach out and they go, "Oh, Mercedes from LinkedIn? I'm
Yeah.
taking her call," versus Mercedes, I've never heard of her at all.
Yeah. She just connected with me today. I'm good.
Right.
Yeah. I
There's
don't want to
so
get the spam. I don't want to get the spam messages for sales. It's like when you put your hand out to shake somebody, but they have no clue who you are, compared to where you put your hand out to shake somebody and they know exactly who you
bingo.
are. The handshake is different.
Absolutely. In fact, the line in my, discovery deck is, "Sales is a whole lot easier and funner when prospects already know who you are."
It is. It really is.
Oh, hey, I could sit here and talk to you forever. We're gonna 2.0 on this. So, before we break, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and where people can find you? I know I can find you, but maybe
Of course. So I am the director of sales and events for Wood Group in the Pacific Beach area. We own 5 venues that vary from bars, nightclubs, and restaurants. And then you can find me on LinkedIn at Mercedes Montijo, and I post daily. Fingers crossed, as long as I feel in the LinkedIn mood. And feel free to shoot me a DM there. I am always responding to the DMs. Hopefully, it's a voice message. I prefer a voice message.
yes, exactly. And now it's voice first, and then I'm going to video next. That's next level. So,
That's my next one too. That's so
right?
funny. That is my next one too. And I've actually, some people have been doing it and seeing high success. And the thing, and I forgot to touch on this, the thing about personal branding is I know some people that work for brands and also have a personal brand on LinkedIn and are making $40,000 a month doing that.
Wow.
So there is a lot of money to be made for somebody that wants to social sell.
And by the way, I forgot to leave my one little tip. You had mentioned picking up your phone and doing more video. Danny Del Vecchio, I think is his name.
I love Danny. Oh my
He's
God. And he offers a free course.
he's awesome. I love him. His tip was, instead of taking notes, like a thought comes to you, like I had a conversation with a prospect and they asked me a question, and that question seems to come up. And I'll use your example, price sensitivity. You know, and I don't know if you guys have what's called attrition. You might not have some of the traditional hotel group sales. Okay, but
We're
what
bootstrap restaurant.
his advice was, instead of writing that down as a note, pick up your phone and talk to it. Talk to your phone
Yeah.
and just get used to being on this as
Yeah.
a sales tool. And I hate to use sales. Some terminology is hard to break in hospitality. We need to make
No,
social
but
selling a top priority as a sales activity, and it's not. It's make
mm,
50 more calls or sales blitzes or
well,
e-block.
didn't I say I felt like I have a commitment? I'm not gonna be able to make that next HSMAI event, but I said, I feel like I have a commitment to make the next HSMAI event because I was on all those videos. I guarantee you, Corey, if somebody asks me about me, you better tell me because
I
I guarantee you somebody will say, "Oh, where's the girl that was in all those videos?"
absolutely. Totally. I love it.